What's up, everybody? Trevor here again. It is what day is it? Saturday, July 9th, 2016. I'm currently in Oslo, Norway. Been a while since the video update, and had a great time hanging out with the parents, my dad, my grandparents, and my sister in Sweden. Had a lot of fun on my birthday in Copenhagen and Roskilde Festival, listening to some awesome music. But I'm still trying to get caught up on these videos since I've been slacking. It's been kind of hard to find some quiet time. I'm not surrounded by a bunch of people in a hostel or partying at a festival and whatnot. So yeah, so this video will do my best to recap Prague, what I got up to there, and update you guys on some reading, that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. I was in Prague from June 7th to June 13th, staying at Hostel plus Prague, which is a pretty cool hostel. It's very big, basically a hotel, but hostel had a pool, it had a sauna, it had a gym. You'd have to pay by the day to use the gym, a restaurant, and a bar. So pretty much everything you could need, it was right there in the hostel. If you didn't want to leave, you could pretty much live there. So that was kind of cool to have all those amenities there. Breakfast buffet wasn't included in the price of the stay, but it was a decent selection of food, and the restaurant had served some good food, minus a little bit of hike on price, but that's because they're a hostel. So while I was in Prague, did a few different tours. I did a free walking tour, like I've mentioned in some of my other videos, how I recommend do a free walking tour, get a way out of the city, learn some of the history and kind of what makes the city tick and everything that's gone on up to this point to make it what it is today. So we learned a little bit about the history of communism and Nazism and the role it's played in the development of Prague. We talked a little bit about Franz Kafka, which I'll get to at the end of this with some quotes from my reading. But it was pretty informative, great tour. I did a couple other tours. One of them was out to this little town of Kutna, which used to be very important to the development of the Czech Republic as a whole. A lot of silver mines there, but we went to saw this cool bone church, or bone chapel, with some like 20,000 human bones made into like these pyramids and all these cool things. So if you're into heavy metal and that kind of stuff, definitely go check out the Bone Chapel in Kutna. Also had some beautiful churches out there. So Prague is known as the city of 100 spires, I believe, maybe 1,000 spires, but it's got some of the most churches per capita of any country in the world, even though the people there aren't that religious anymore. So it's kind of cool. A lot of beautiful churches and things you can go check out. So that was another tour I did. The last one I did was this Prague Castle tour, so kind of learned some of the history of the castle and what's been going on there and the history behind it and that kind of stuff. So that was nice. The castle in Prague is the largest castle complex in Europe. It is massive. The cathedral there is beautiful and also very stunning. You can see it from everywhere in the city. So I would definitely recommend the walking tour and the Kutna tour. The castle tour, you can kind of see the castle for yourself without a tour guide, and you'll probably get more or less the same stuff out of it, but maybe a little bit less information. So Prague's pretty famous for their beer. I drank a lot of beer there. One night I did do a boat party, so I had like 2 hours of open bar at this pub, and then we went and hung out on a boat and cruised around. So I met a few people from the US, from Poland, from all over, just talking about life and getting drunk on a boat. So yeah, it was a good time. So far on this trip, I've realized I'm not a giant fan of drinking on boats, or just boats in general, because I've been sick on boats so far. So I wouldn't do the boat party again, but that's just me. Met a lot of cool people staying at the hostel. A lot of Australians who I cannot even believe how hard they party. They can drink till 7 a.m., get a few hours of sleep, and then do it again. And I was struggling to even try to keep up, but good on them. Didn't really run into too many problems in Prague. It was a nice stay. I was there for 7 days, which is kind of the longest I've been in almost any city for the most part. But I did have one mishap where I went to the ATM to pull out some cash, and I Didn't quite understand the exchange rate yet, and I was kind of just picking the numbers on the screen, and I pulled out, how much, 20,000 Czech crowns, is that right? Something like that. Way too much money. It was almost $1,000 of cash I had, so kind of fucked that up. But hey, you live and you learn. Pay attention when you're using an ATM, and make sure you know what the exchange rate is so that you're getting the right amount of money out. Did quite a bit of longboarding, a couple times just by myself, scoping out the city, finding where everything was. One time I went out with some of those Australian guys I was talking about. They had bikes, so I was doing my best to keep up with them. They were a little bit quicker than me, but it was great. The last thing I'll mention, Prague's kind of famous for its astronomical clock, which is this clock that does a little show every hour on the hour for the last, I forget how long, 500 years, 600 years, something like that. So pretty incredible feat of engineering, but nothing too special. It's a lackluster show, and a lot of people group up and it gets super crowded around the clock tower before the show every hour, and then everybody is disappointed. My tour guide for the walking tour actually recommended going up to the top of the clock tower and then watching all the disappointed people watch instead of watching the clock itself, and that's a much better show. So there's a little bit of information for you guys if you're trying to go visit Prague. So that about wraps it up. From Prague I went to Vienna, and then to Budapest and Sweden, and then Copenhagen, now Norway. So I've been bumping around a lot. My trip's almost come to an end. I've only got about 4 more days here, 5 days maybe, before I start making my way back through the US and back to home. But in this video, I'll give you guys a quick quote from Franz Kafka. The short story I read is called Metamorphosis, which Franz Kafka is a weird author. I don't know how else to put it, but very dark kind of stories, and you might be a little bit confused or not really sure, but Metamorphosis is about the story of a traveling salesman who wakes up one day and he's transformed into a beetle, and he's more concerned with the fact that he's not going to be able to go into work that day than the fact that he's actually a beetle. And you kind of see how his life drags on now that he's a beetle, and the way that his family changes and the way they treat him changes. And yeah, it's a dark one, but it'll make you think. So here's a quick quote from Metamorphosis. No one dared to remove the apple lodged in Gregor's flesh, so it remained there as a visible reminder of his injury. He had suffered it there for more than a month, and his condition seemed serious enough to remind even his father that Gregor, despite his current sad and revolting form, was a family member who could not be treated as an enemy. On the contrary, as a family, there was a duty to swallow any revulsion for him, and to be patient. Just to be patient. Thanks for watching, guys. Try to get a couple more videos before I make it back to the States, and talk to you soon.